Rest in peace, Deepak Chopra. No, he's not actually dead. He was just on the Epstein files. Yes, this new age spiritual guru who focuses on alternative medicine and spiritual practices such as Ayurveda was caught meeting up with Epstein multiple times. And if you don't know who Epstein is, he's notorious for being the pedophile that ran a bunch of different trafficking rings of children and people overall, that was also heavily tied to all these different celebrities and government officials and very important people around the world. And unfortunately, amongst them was Chopra, who by the way was extremely looked up to in the spiritual community. Okay, so this is what my entire video is going to be about today. Yes, I'm going to be covering details on what I'm talking about, right? His involvement with Epstein, but I'm also going to be talking about the concept of fake spiritual gurus, which is such an important thing to be watching out for in the spiritual journey, because you got to be so careful who you're listening to. So let's get into a little bit of the details on what I'm talking about here. This is something that you can literally look up online. Okay, it was that simple. I didn't have to go tying the dots or whatever. Literally, it's on the first article that you look up on Google. Okay, basically Chopra met up with Epstein over a dozen times. A lot of people are saying like maybe he was just consulting him spiritually, etc., but there are emails with them talking about how, you know, Chopra had a blast, obviously inciting that he was at a party with Epstein. And another one that unfortunately really does not look good for Chopra, which was the email where Epstein sent him this case that had been thrown out, you know, these allegations that him and Trump had assaulted a 13-year-old, and Chopra replied positively to that, saying, good, let's meet at 2:30 p.m. So it doesn't really look that good on his end. Now I understand some people can be like, oh well, maybe he didn't know about Epstein's involvement, right? This was back in 2016, but really, I mean, like, if you think about it, somebody who's very deep in the spiritual community and even, you know, supposedly a spiritual guru, a leader, should have some sort of discernment and understanding that there's something deeply wrong with that. So I'm not saying he was involved, because there's still no proof about that, but most likely, if you really can feel into the situation, he probably was. Now, to be honest with you, Chopra has actually reached a very humongous level of success coming from, you know, talking about these topics, right? These spiritual topics. And it shouldn't really come as a surprise to those who are very like open in the intuitive field that Chopra is very much involved with these elite people, right? The people who are doing or manipulating this whole aspect and doing all these weird things. He's even friends with Oprah. I mean, like, he's been on these interviews multiple times. He's literally endorsed by Oprah. And we already know she is heavily involved with the elites. Now, personally, I do believe this man was controlled opposition. You could 100% be very knowledgeable on these different spiritual aspects and topics, but at the end of the day, you can be walking a completely different path in life. Now, should you feel bad because, you know, at some point you really liked his knowledge and you were very inspired by it? I don't think you should feel bad, obviously. I think at the end of the day that there's something that somebody said in my comment: don't throw away the baby along with the bathwater. I mean, like, if you really resonated with the knowledge that this man had, right? I know I did in some point. Like, I've read a lot of his stuff as well, and I thought like, yeah, this knowledge is cool. I don't really know about the guy, but this knowledge is good, right? But yeah, I wouldn't personally continue to like use him as a source. But you also really gotta understand that these people, the ones that are doing all of these different things, like running the big pharma, running the entertainment industry, doing these child trafficking rings, doing all these different satanic rituals, all these different things, right? I'm not saying that Chopra was involved with that, but I'm talking about the elites, right? The ones that are really involved in the controlling aspect of this reality know about magic. They know about mysticism. So just because somebody's spiritual doesn't mean that they are good people. This is something that you really have to understand. Just because somebody's spiritual or they're spiritually gifted or they have all of this wisdom doesn't mean that they have good intentions. Many people in the spiritual path do not walk the path of light. They don't walk the path of truth. They don't walk the path of integrity and being connected to the collective, okay? They walk the path of self-centeredness. They walk the path of selfishness, they walk the path of the ego, okay? And they use all of these different magical principles in order to benefit their own lives and to benefit their own very selfish needs, okay? So what I'm saying here is that all of these different people that are very much involved with the elite, which I would say is this man. I remember when I read this book called Synchrodestiny by Deepak Chopra, which I thought was an amazing book, okay? It was talking about synchronicities and how to use them, etc. I thought it was a pretty cool book. It already very much verified a lot of my different studies on synchronicities and my work with them as well. But the knowledge in this book was uncanny, with a lot of Masonic knowledge that I've also read. It was very much tied together. Now, I'm not saying that Chopra was a Mason at all, but what I am saying, these elites are using these different principles. They're using all of this knowledge themselves as well. They're just not using it for good. Just because somebody calls themselves conscious, awakened, or they talk about all these different unknown and occult subjects does not mean that they are good people. It doesn't mean that they're using these things for good either. Okay, so it's very important to understand that in the spiritual community, there is a lot of frauds. There is a lot of predatory people. Okay, the spiritual community, in fact, I've heard many horrible stories. I've had myself many horrible stories as well, where people use like different levels of knowledge, right? Or like if you look up to somebody and this person has more knowledge than you could fall victim to this person manipulating you as well. And this happens in real life all the time with different communities that you can get into. I know stories where, for example, I had this girl that I spoke to once who, when she had a spiritual awakening, she actually went to this guy who she knew was very much in, you know, the spiritual scene, and this man told her that he can heal her if she has sex with him. And you know, unfortunately, that wasn't the last time I actually heard a story like that. And this happens so much. You would be so surprised to see how many people in this space, or people who, you know, they have their spiritual awakenings, they wake up to like the magic of life. How many people in this space are actually just in on it because they want more status, they want more power, they want more money, they want more, you know, recognition, etc. All of these different egotistical desires. It's almost like, yeah, they're awakening, they can see all this knowledge, they can gain all this knowledge, but really, did they have an awakening, or was their ego the one that had the awakening? To put it into perspective, let me tell you one of the stories that actually happened to me. I'm not gonna cover who this guy was. He has a big following, like around 240,000 followers on Instagram. He went viral for like talking about the heart's electromagnetic field and all this stuff, but I'm not gonna say his name just because I don't want a lawsuit. Let me tell you about this dude. This guy had something with my friend, and my friend was like, oh, he does content as well, just like you, so, you know, we should all meet up. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, we went to meet up at this restaurant, and it was just the three of us, right? Him, my friend, and me. He was 30 minutes late, and when he arrived, this whole time, this man was like on his phone. Okay, I was sitting in front of him, I was asking him questions, trying to make conversations, and he literally did not care about talking to me. He was just like super cocky. So when my friend actually told him, hey, Ira actually does social media as well, suddenly his phone is down and he's looking at me and he's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I talk about awareness, consciousness. And he's like, oh, okay. And he looks me up in front of him and he's like, you have really good engagement. And I'm like, yeah. So I started telling him about my work. So suddenly he's telling me about his company, right? About his business. And he's like, oh, I have such amazing sales reps. Like, they can close any deal. You know, it would be really awesome if you become a coach to my company. And to be honest, I wasn't even interested because this dude's energy was just already like not it. But I replied, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, but I'm not trying to get into any type of association right now. And this man looked me straight in the eyes and he said, well, people in the spiritual community don't really pay money, so you will most likely be left in the dust if you don't work with me. And by the way, being left in the dust, it's just something that tells you, yeah, you're gonna be left behind, like you're not gonna amount to anything. And he even had the audacity to ask me how much I make per month. Like, dude, I'm telling you, I tried to have a conversation with this man and all he wanted to speak about was business. Business. This is just 1% of what this man did, by the way. There's like a whole other thing that he did that was completely messed up, like appropriating the culture in Peru. By the way, I'm Peruvian. We literally met in Peru. He was coming from a retreat. He had done ayahuasca, and this man didn't even know what Pachamama was. I was so disappointed, bro, because like, how are you gonna come to Peru, to our country, and not know about our ancestry here and our ancestral culture, yet you want to capitalize off our plant medicine? Like, come on, bro. Mind you, besides him telling me I was gonna get left in the dust if I didn't work with him, and telling me that what I do is not special, right, and that I should work with him, trying to make me feel smaller, besides all of the stuff that I just said, when my friend was with him in the hotel, he was extremely rude to the staff members, okay? They were trying to get him to pay a bill, and he was trying to go to the airport because he had a flight, so he started screaming at everybody, even like screamed fuck you to the staff people when he was leaving. And even besides that, like, oh my god, there's just so much like this. And to top all of that off, after my friend obviously like was like, hey, what you did was super messed up, I did not like that, he was like, yeah baby, I got a dark side. And he started bragging about pistol whipping people in his past, and that he had been a bad person and he chose the light, and he started bragging about all the dark shit that he did. And you know what, as somebody myself who actually comes from the ghetto, who was, you know, involved in a lot of different dark activities to make money when I was younger, I would never brag about all the things that I've done. I'm somebody that is very open about my past, but I will never be like, oh yeah, like I did all of that, you know, I was like robbing people or whatever. What the heck, bro? Anyways, like who the fuck brags about that shit, bro? Like whatever, man. Like, I'm telling you, these people are weird. You have to watch out who you are hanging around and who you are listening to, because this man has a big ass following and he influences people all the time, yet he's doing this stuff behind doors. Many people in the spiritual community are in it for the power, for the status, for the money, but not all of them are, okay? It's very important for you to exercise your discernment. It's very important for you to begin noticing which people are really doing so, to, you know, for the ego, okay? Because not all people or spiritual people that make money off of their skill sets, their knowledge, are not bad people. And one thing I'm gonna say is that there is a humongous difference between somebody who genuinely is like, they have their gifts, they have their knowledge, they know they can make an impact, and they go and they actually monetize it, okay? Because that's what you should be doing. Now, there's a very big difference between people who use their God-given gifts, they use their knowledge, they use their wisdom that they have learned throughout their lives to help others, and God rewards them through money, right? Or through other things, opportunities, etc. I myself do that, right? My entire business is centered around the knowledge that I can give people, the impact that I can make using everything I've known and everything I've gained throughout many years. Very different to center the impact that you make on people and center the money that you make, because money is just something that comes to me. That's it. It just comes to me. I don't focus on that. I didn't do this for money, okay? If I wanted to do this for money, for example, I could have done sales, drop shipping, all of these different skill sets that I got extremely successful doing, okay? I could have done all of that if it was really for money. There's people out here who genuinely have to share their gifts, who share their knowledge to make money. Otherwise, they will not get anywhere. So if you're somebody in the spiritual space who's watching this, do not feel bad because you're charging, okay? You don't want to be comparing yourself to these other people who are completely capitalizing off their spirituality. They don't even know much about it. They're not integrating, and they're definitely not centering the people, the collective, the impact that you make in this world. And it's important to watch out for that, because there are people who get into the spiritual space and immediately they start capitalizing off of it. I personally took 7 years to begin making money off of this, okay? 7 years of constant researching, integration, gaining knowledge, and just overall learning. At the end of the day, I mean, I'm not saying that you need to take 7 years as well to begin monetizing your skill sets, etc. I think monetizing your passions and your knowledge is the most beautiful and divine way to actually make money in this world. You have to have a certain level of connection to yourself before you ever even try to step foot into making money with the spiritual realm, okay? Because if you're not heart-centered, you're gonna be doing it for the ego, and you're not really gonna be doing an impact. And you're gonna end up becoming a servant to the matrix and the very systems that have been oppressing us this whole time, just like Chopra. So my entire purpose with this video is for you to stop spiritual gurus on pedestals, okay? Stop putting them on pedestals. Begin to actually research yourself. Begin to look into people's characters more and have more discernment, okay? This is not at all judgment, by the way. A lot of people are gonna probably be like, oh my god, you're judging him, you don't even know what's going on. First of all, it's very important for you to discern and look at what is working and what's not working, so you can decide a best path forward. If you're not seeing what's not working, you know, if you're really calling this judgmental, you may as well just leave the people that are pedophiles up, you know, running the world and ruling the world, and just leaving them be, because, you know, if you call them out, you're being judgmental. That just makes no sense. Stop it with that. You need to discern. When we look up to these spiritual leaders, we tend to look at them from a pedestal standpoint, and it's super important to understand that they are their own human being. Like, for example, with Gandhi, he is somebody that a lot of people look up to because, you know, he was a freedom fighter. And the thing is that he had very ulterior motives. He had different practices that were not at all, it would be something that you call predatory. For example, he would test his grandchildren's purity by sleeping with them and seeing if they were tempted. These were children, okay? These were little girls. So there is a lot of different things that you can see with different spiritual gurus, that if you really look into them, you will see that perhaps they weren't the best people, okay? Stop putting these people on the pedestal. Stop thinking that they are all enlightened. They're not, okay? They are humans just like us, and a lot of them have faults. They have very big ones as well, okay? And ulterior motives. With that being said, let me know what your thoughts are below. If you believe a certain guru, it could be fake, etc., put them down below. Let's investigate them together. And thank you for joining me today. My name is Ira Morphy, and I'll see you on the next video.